Yeah.
So we are live. We are live. Oh, we already have Christa in the room here. So let's leave her here. That's okay. Let me see if I switch it to two. Oh, it shows up like this. So that's good. I think we could do this as an option.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So good night, folks. Let me bring our MC. MC.
LinkedIn Live with Lyndon and Shara. Now we have a new guest tonight, and that's Christa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much,
don't
Zoe.
forget, yellow is Daddy's favorite color. So don't forget to wear yellow.
Again, her brainwash. She getting good. She making sure.
Yeah, she makes
So
it sure.
So good night, folks. Good night, folks. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited because person is a guest on the show tonight simply from some comment she made on LinkedIn, which again shows the importance that Lyndon and I stress on about how important it is not just to post content but to engage with people on the platform. And Christa Prevatt, I would leave her to introduce herself because she does a lot of stuff, but I want to particularly focus on what she got my attention on because I think it's going to bring a lot of value to you in sales, especially if it is that you want to improve your performance or if you're from a managerial position, why it's important to document your top performance. So, Christa, introduce yourself. Let's learn more about you.
So, as you said, Christa Prevatt, thank you very much, guys, for the opportunity to share and to be a part of this live. And yeah, LinkedIn really is an opportunity for us to talk about business and talk about the things that are aches and pains for us. And so, I am a strategic advisor. I have a consulting company called Envision, and we offer consulting and training support. We do mediation, we do industrial relations, leadership development, performance improvement, which we're going to discuss tonight, and strategic HR planning. And of course, when you get one organization that does all these things and you have a strategic advisor that can weave all these things together, you get really a lot of bang for your buck.
Nice.
So,
Correct.
what I spoke to you about was something called human performance improvement, which is my training and methodology that I like to apply in situations to really help organizations achieve their goals and boost their performance.
Okay. Nice. So, Lyndon, I don't know if I have a couple questions. Don't know if you want to start off with anything else yet.
No, what I think you should do, JB, is maybe you could start with where the genesis of the conversation. So you could start with your
Yes.
post as to where
Oh yeah.
we
So let's
and
let's bring
then
in the
we'll
post
go in from there. Yeah.
because a lot of people had a lot of discussions on the post. Hey Tina, so I did a post and tell us where you're from, everybody who's joining in. But I did a post earlier this week just stating the fact that I've noticed, and it's not the first time, that a lot of companies are cutting down or moving away from training the entire sales force to just training the ones who they know they could get the results from. That's either the top performers or the employees who are showing the potential. Because we all know whether it might be a small or a large team, and in this case with the clients, it's a large team. You always have a group of people who just you can bring Jesus and they're still not gonna sell. It doesn't matter what you do, the performance will never improve. And I posted that on LinkedIn, and a lot of people, of course, said, no, you have to train everyone, you have to train everyone. But my whole issue is that one, some people don't have that initial budget to train everyone. And then you have to kind of do too much in the training to appeal to top performers, middle performers, and low performers, whereas your training could be customized for all. And Krista came in with such a valuable comment based on what she does. And let's highlight that for a second. That's how you add value to a conversation. There's some of you out there, you won't know who you are because I've blocked you, where I've posted something on LinkedIn and you applied, hey, feel free to reach out for me if you need any digital marketing services. Like, no, that's not the kind of comment you make. Krista made a valuable comment to say it's really important to document the high performing persons on your team. And that way you can understand what makes it work so you could repeat the action with other persons in the organization. And again, that's what all companies are trying to do in sales. Because we all know the fact there's very little top performers in companies. So like you have, I think it's like what, 10% on average, right, London?
Yes, on average.
Yeah, and imagine if a company could double the number of top performers on their team, what that would mean for their revenue. And I think that's why what Krista does is so important. And I love the fact that she's coming here to talk to us tonight. So yes.
So I just want to go ahead and maybe I'll read Krista's comments, and then we could maybe ask her to expand on it a little bit more, right? So it said, return on trading investment is critical to consider. All right, I use a methodology called Human Performance Investment (HPI) to develop key elements of what makes top performers get the results they need and the issues affecting the average and low performers, and devise a roadmap of ensuring success. Right, I'm happy to discuss. So what I want to ask you, dear Krista, because I have a very similar train of thought as it relates to what we're discussing, but I want to be a little bit of a devil's advocate just for the sake of the conversation as we're going along. All right. So if you could just expand a little bit on the importance of the documentation and what some of the things that companies can do to, even if not going the full route, but at least to get themselves started for folks who maybe want to be DIYs, that kind of thing. So if you could just expand on the methodology and the brain behind it.
Right. So HPI is something that a consultant will apply, human performance improvement, will apply a set of tools and techniques to really dive into the heart of your organization and go through the different layers of your operations and different functional departments and so on to see how your processes are working, how your technologies are supported and integrated into your services, and of course, how your people are performing. And of course, your people are your key advantage and disadvantage at the same time, right? So you have the persons who embrace, who find ways to work around issues, who are in constant contact with and develop rapport with, for instance, with your clientele and so on, and they might be the high performers. And then you have the persons who are more laid back, and I'm trying to stay in the realm of sales and that frontline service here. So, you have the folks who might be more laid back, might more disengaged, might be less familiar with product design, less en courant with how to use technology, and even a little technophobic, even at this stage in the game. And you might see that reflected in their performance. And this is kind of simplifying what we do, but at the surface level, you'll see one person having high sales and recording good sales all the time, and somebody else, struggling to keep and meet targets and whatnot. And one area might differ, Jared, is that I believe everybody needs the opportunity for training, because training is really an area where you can engage people. And engagement and this idea of employee engagement is something that all firms suffer from if you're not communicating and having buy-in and that kind of thing. So if you leave people out, there is going to be an issue. So this has to come in way before you decide to train. You need to be making sure that your managers and supervisors are coaching and mentoring, and of course using that performance measurement tools that you have that should be built into your organization, not just the KPIs, but all the way along. What does it take to do this? What are our processes for getting sales? If it's 10 calls on a daily basis, whatever. What are the things that would lead to success? What are the things that would lead, in our opinion, to getting the results we want? And is everybody doing that? What is the deviation from that? How do key performers do what they do? And that is going to be captured if you're doing your performance appraisals and your performance measurement routinely, and using it as a way to really track your growth, really track how people are doing well, as opposed to a punitive instrument, or just something to decide whether people get a promotion or don't, or whether they get a raise or don't, or a bonus or whatever. So, that's how the whole thing is connected and built in as a system.
Oh, and then just to be clear, because I know some people may have this mistaken, this is different from a performance management review, correct?
Well, that is just one part that could come into the play, right? If you're doing it as a company. Now, internally, if you have HR persons or others who have the credentials to do HPI, human performance improvement, and apply that technique, they will be guiding your staff and your managers and so on in terms of how to make sure that you are tracking performance on a regular basis, so that you could pick up on issues that you might be having. But if you want to do, let's say, a change, a turnaround, you want to add some new innovative thing in there, It'll be good to get a HPI consultant to come and sit with you, really work through your processes, tighten things up, tweak things, find out what makes your key performers and best performers perform the way that they're performing, and document that so that you could replicate it. You know, in
Correct.
different societies, we have training guides or even job aids, things that might, you know, like if you go to Ritz-Carlton, everybody has a little pocket card, and it's a checklist of things that they must say to each and every customer. And that's why they have the highest standards in terms of customer care in the world.
Right.
Because everybody says the same thing, behaves the same way, and that kind of thing. And that's what you need to do if you want that kind of performance in a service environment like that.
And I'm really happy that you said that, Christa, because here's where my concern comes in. And this is where I'm going to kind of be a little bit of the devil's advocate. I don't think companies, and let me say it like this, so I don't think companies in Trinidad are serious about getting that deep as it relates to performance improvement, but taking something like that as a holistic approach. Because they easily default to, while I understand and I know exactly what you're doing is important, my experience is we're just going to put a plaster on this for now, and sometime down the road we'll look at this, and we'll take a look at all of this performance stuff. Have you experienced things like that, or what have you seen as it relates to any sort of changes within the last year or two? I'm not even referring to COVID, but just people genuinely saying, you know what, we really need to take a strong look at our processes, and kind of focusing properly on improving our people. Or honestly, because even while being a sales manager and a team lead, I have seen instances where we didn't know what to do with our lowest performers. Do we reposition them in a better space in the job? I'm actually seeing that now with some people who I'm just doing some surface level assessments with. Like, what I could say that they're not going to improve in their sales, but what do we do with them now? That type of thing. So have you seen organizations really taking a hard look, or, as I say, for me, they didn't really care too much about doing that?
Well, we try to be results driven, and sometimes we focus on the end without thinking about how we're going to get there, and we suffer from that because, and you rightly used the term, a plaster, and training is used as a plaster, right? We having these poor results, so let's get a trainer and let's slap them in there, and over a week or 3 weeks or however long it takes, and then we remove them and we expect that people will change. Listen, it had to change your own mind. It had to stop, if you have to stop drinking alcohol for a period of time or give up meat or whatever, it's so difficult for you to do that, much less for something that you've, encouraged, has become part of your culture. It's how we do things.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And you really, going back to that point of the return on your training investment, doesn't make sense spending money on training that is going to just be, some nice opportunities to have conversation and nice exercises, and we get along and we do team building or whatever, sing kumbaya, and then we back around doing the same thing we were doing before the training. Have we changed? Are we going to be measuring those success factors that we were looking for, that we invested in training for in the first place?
Right.
I mean, and go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask. So then, how often should something like this be done? Because a lot of companies tend to hire, and I'll probably say, given who I work with, the insurance industry is a good example, but because sometimes companies may have high turnover, but also companies have stuff that is seasonal. So depending on the type of organization, is it that you recommend different frequencies in terms of how often you do these performance human performance indicators, right? Is HPI?
Human performance improvement. HPI.
HPI. How often you do these HPIs? Or is it something that it should be always ongoing? What do you recommend for companies?
Performance is something that you manage all the time.
Right.
It's every day. It's why you have supervisors and why you have managers and you pay people to overlook teams, because they are the ones who are making sure that you're getting the results you want each and every time.
Okay.
So that's why I'm going back to that whole comment about training. If it is that you're not consistently getting the results you want every time, you need to go back in. Are we being supervised properly? Do we have the right skill set among our management and supervision team to help our people grow? Are they doing mentoring and coaching? Do they know how to do it? All right. Are our KPIs aligned with the results that we want to have? Are we measuring it effectively? Do we give people enough tools to do this thing? How have we hired them in the first place? Is it that they flashed a big smile and put on a nice show for us, and we were convinced, aha, they have the confidence and the charisma to get sales?
And then it
Or was
fall
it
apart
something?
as they get into it.
Exactly. So, I mean, it has to be, I am a systems thinker. I think about how things work together. They might be functionally different, but they have to work together to achieve the same goal. And, in that way, you manage performance. Why are we in business? What are the things that we want to achieve? And how are we going to go there? What are the processes? As you talked about insurance, how do we close a sale? And what are the steps involved in that? And what do we have to do each and every day with each and every person to make sure we get a little closer to closing that sale or to achieving whatever targets?
Nice.
You're saying that there, and as I say, I really do. I like everything that you're mentioning, Krista, because of the fact that it really speaks upon, and you used the word just now, changing the culture. And yes,
Yeah.
this is something that will take time because we all want high performance. I remember that I had a manager who he would always speak about culture, but never wanted to recognize that the process of how we were going about hiring or even attracting the right people to help
Yeah.
change the culture was wrong. So, and you just mentioned it there, right? How are you hiring? Like, how was your hiring process? Because as you said, the mechanisms like what we have didn't just come like that. There's a few things that we might actually be doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
Towards so and that starts, as you mentioned, from the hiring process. I mean, Jared and I sometimes we scrutinize. I was just just earlier this afternoon, I was scrutinizing job descriptions because I'm recognizing that what you're asking for is different. So, like this description of what you want the person to do is a little bit skewed from what the job role is actually supposed to be because you're bulking a whole set of stuff inside of there
Yep.
that's not really going to allow the person to perform the way that they're supposed to perform.
And if you
So
have a proper HPI, you get to actually help HR determine what are the things they're looking for, so that if they're hiring, they literally put those key. HR need this more than sales.
yeah. No, and that's totally correct. So have you seen to because I do know that there are some when it comes to things like performance cultures, right?
Mm.
You tend to get some resistance or pushback from quote unquote the top performers. They try to maybe withhold information. As I say, because this is what you do. What I want to use the opportunity to do is kind of raise some of these scenarios I've experienced
Sure.
as a manager and also as a consultant for Jared and myself, where you tend to find sometimes too that your stakeholders don't want to cooperate, meaning that they may try to withhold some of the information, that type of thing, because as you rightfully said, it may show up some of their inefficiencies. Let's say from on a leadership side, or it may, maybe sometimes the top sales performer just wants to keep that space. How would you go
Yeah.
about really now kind of showcasing the importance of culture and everyone having the ability to perform at this level?
Well, you talk about a few things there. So culture is
Right.
something, right? Culture is something separate,
Separate,
right? Let
right?
me try to kind of break it up. Um, you know, Let me start then with culture. Culture is about who the organization is, what your values are, and that kind of thing. So it shouldn't be up on a wall. It should be
Mm,
what you live each and every day.
mm,
And it
right.
starts, everybody's talking about the fish rotting from the head. If it is
Yeah.
you as a leader of the organization, as a team leader, as a manager and whatnot, is not living these values, your people aren't going to do it either.
Yep.
And then we are, we're in a space where work smart, not hard. So
Mm,
everybody always finds workarounds. kind of
Yeah.
thing. So without knowing it, you'll find people finding ways and shortcuts and whatnot that seem to be getting the job done. But in a crunch and over time, you'll realize that you're not getting the improvements that you should be seeing, or you're not seeing the growth that you should be seeing, or you're having people who skip the steps altogether because they're too difficult for them and design their own sub process somewhere. And these are the things, the falling aways that could lead to those events where it affects your bottom line, you know?
Mm.
So that's why I say don't look. I even though consulting and training is my business, I don't want anybody to say, I want training, put a plaster on it, that kind of thing. I prefer to come in and have a conversation with you, figure out what's going on, talk to your people, see how they approach things, and design something uniquely for you. Because every culture, every circumstance, every business is different. Your unique
Mm-hmm.
selling proposition is different or
Right.
should be different,
Yes.
you know? So on the other side of that, in terms of managing performance and getting the results you want, of course, we know as HR persons, we're supposed to be hiring for the results that we want. We're supposed to be making sure we have the talent that's there to begin with. And how do we then engage that talent? Make sure that they have the opportunity and the space to understand the business, to invest themselves in the business, and to maybe even be a little experimental in terms of stretching themselves a little further to go a little more, deliver a little more, make a mistake and learn from it, and that kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
all of that helps with improving that culture and becoming more, the buzzword, innovative,
Right.
and more, that's how it happens, because you're given an opportunity to people to think, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yes, there needs to be programmed decision making in terms of processes and things that we should live by, but then there should be opportunity as well for your people to use that initiative, do something a little different and see how it works, you know? So you know, it all has to be different things working together to get the success that you want.
I love that.
Um yeah,
So
right?
for me, what I'm thinking is for an organization, and this will go back to when we started from the poll to now and everything, and just based on everything we've been discussing, the HPI allows you to determine, not well as you said, it documents everything. So now you are, based on what you find, you're able to batch a sales team into the groups, correct, of good, better, best, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
then that now allows you to give the company the different types of strategies or what they need to implement to get those persons, well, keep the best, get the better to best, and get the good to better, like a natural progression up. And of course, you get
Yep.
people, the thing that you disagree with, which, well, not disagree, but of course, a difference of opinion, the ones
Yes.
who, no matter what you do, you have to coach them out. And
Well,
coach out could be out to the sales team, because they just
yeah.
might not be like, I know people who aren't good at selling but are great account managers,
Right.
right? Like that kind of instant. I know not all organizations have that flexibility, but I just think that you need to operate lean now just to make sure you can get the best out of your team. And if sometimes it means just cutting the ones that don't make any sense, you might actually improve the team overall, especially if you have done as much as you can to help them.
I agree to the point where yes, you need to consider your bottom line. You need to make sure that your training makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you would want to select who needs training for what and that kind of thing. And I also agree that people have unique strengths and abilities, and we should be identifying that somewhere from the hiring process and that engagement of employment. You should be able to tell what their interests are, where they're interested in growing, and direct them accordingly. Because what's the sense of having, as you say, an excellent account manager or relationship manager, and having them frustrated because they're trying to make sales targets and failing.
Agreed.
Nobody likes failing. Nobody likes not being successful.
No, but I know Linda and I theory is always different in this, because I remember this would have been early sales, the profession lives, Lyndon, where we spoke about why firing could actually be the best thing for an employee. because like we always talk about the fact that you ever see where an employee wasn't good in one job, and then like they go to the next job and all of a sudden they're the rock star in that job, like they're doing excellent, and then some people say it's out of bad mind, and I'm like, no, it's because the job that they were in wasn't suited for their skills. They were probably great at sales, just not great at sales in this environment and this culture, etc. And I
Right.
think based on what you do, like that HPI can help identify that for individuals. So even at
Yeah.
the early stage, because I don't know if you saw the messaging, Tina Rock says she wants to talk to you. You see
Oh,
the opportunity. I WhatsApp everything already too. You
okay.
have it.
Thanks.
And that's it. She's a recruiter. She has a recruiting organization. So, and again,
Sure.
even if you look at it from that perspective, for those of you who are listening in on this, having
Hmm.
those, having these types of testers and programs and what Krista is doing helps you really identify where to put people. Like, let's look at the example of what Tina is doing. If I'm a recruiter, you would be able to help me identify where somebody has to go based
Mhm.
on what they do. So you're able to point people in the right direction from early. So there's the chances of them going into the wrong type of sales job is
Yep.
drastically reduced. So I hope organizations, and not just the large organizations, but again the local ones, the Caribbean Jobs and all these other organizations, look at these and have this like an added service for their candidates and stuff for the using, because I think this is a huge time saver to help individuals, and I think it's a revenue gainer for organizations, because if I could understand who my top performers are and I can make the better become best, my revenue real gonna change.
Mhm.
That's a big
Yeah.
change, and that's a ridiculous change in revenue, because even when I was looking at the stats based on people was telling me with the poll, your top performers in some cases bring in 80% of your revenue. You can
Yeah.
imagine if you double your top performers, that's not
Yep.
just revenue increasing, that's market share increasing,
Yep. Yep. And
Yes.
the thing is, you may not even double your top performers, but you may just get you may just, because remember, once you're doing the training, your top performers are always going to be top performers. The
Hmm.
top performers are never going to allow a, let's say, a B or C, someone that's just B, to just catch them, because they would always want to be there. That's just a mental thing with someone who's a 1%er, right?
Right.
So they are going to increase their own revenue as it relates to things like performance output. But you're now going to have people who are at that B level, even now operating at where that top performer was. So yes, you will receive that increase, and your incremental growth in terms of performance wouldn't be that much of a big change, because you may not have changed people a lot. So Krista mentioned something just now as it relates to impacting your bottom line, right?
Right.
And what we also see what we also see is companies kind of holding back from consultations like these, right? For, I don't want to use the word holding back, but again, because they may not understand the cost and XYZ, they may look at this as some sort of expense. But I want to ask Krista, not so much for the cost of the service, but would you say that this is one of those engagements that is highly scalable, because you may not have to make, because you're doing a human's performance improvement assessment and plan and way forward and stuff like that. You may not need to do things like, or arbitrary tactics like bring in more staff because you want to increase more sales. That is a immediate cost thing. So would you say that
Yeah.
an improvement like this is scalable towards an
Oh,
organization's bottom
yeah.
line?
For sure, for sure. It's actually meant if to align all that you have existing. And I mean, you're in business 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. You have to be doing something right.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
not about throwing everything out and redesigning or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's finding what works well for you and expanding that throughout your organization. So,
Right.
in fact, you can do HPI with just one team, one functional team where you want some kind of result to be replicated, or you want some improvement in performance generally there, or to do some innovative new thing, or add a new service or whatever. You can apply it in that environment. You could do it organization wide. If you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
corporate turnaround activity and that kind of thing, and you want to make sure what you're doing is going to line up and going to give you the end results that you want. So it is definitely scalable, and it's something that your managers and supervisors, once exposed to, will learn and will
Mm-hmm.
apply. So it's going to
Right.
save you in terms of your long run, making sure that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past,
Right.
and definitely going to impact in not only cost savings in the long run, but definitely increases on your bottom line, you know.
Yeah. So that's good
So,
for us to know, JB, because it means that again the things that we mentioned to customers with to clients where we are letting them know, listen, you can take particular strategic action, even if you're bringing in a consultant to support you without having to make any large scale changes to your team. And I mean, I've seen it happen because you want to increase more sales, you think you need to hire more people. That's not always the case. And
Yeah.
to add to your point too, just how a simple shift can make a big difference. I mean, I'm actually seeing now where, and me doing this is unsolicited, so I'm just making an observation on an industry and a few people in that industry, and I'm seeing where there are a few people who are not very good in sales, like sales isn't their thing, but they are very strong in marketing. You understand?
right.
They are very they could help in areas of content creation, but you see, organizations aren't looking at as they're not looking as at having functions like that, someone being a content creator or being a blogger, being doing some videography,
And using that
as
KPI to drive sales.
and oh yeah, so they're not even seeing that, okay, that is how we can shift this person here, maybe put a position alongside marketing, and they do that to support marketing with that support sales because they already have the sales experience, and that is a scalable move, and it's a lateral
Correct.
move, and impacting on that individual, and you're going to improve their performance, which then adds to the value of improving the performance of the sales team. At least that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. And for those of you who now joining us, because I know usually around 8 days always a peak, we are joined by the amazing Christa. She is from Envision Experts, and what we're talking about is HPI, which is Human Performance Improvement. I got it
Yes.
right, Christa? Ha!
You did.
I had a meeting today with a lot of acronyms. I was a tongue twister, so I kind of off on acronyms to the rest of the day. But the
Right.
reason I bought on was from a poll I did earlier this week, just talking about should training be provided for all individuals. And Krista made an amazing argument. The point, not argument, just talking about the fact that there are ways to actually identify the top performers in the organization. And we've just been having a discussion about how that can make an improvement overall, how it can actually identify additional opportunities to the organization. And I think what goes into us, just given the fact that we are all entrepreneurs here, is the fact that things like this is not an expense. It is
sorry,
an investment. Was that enough?
sorry. Loris asked a question there. I just have to laugh. My apologies.
Oh no, Loris, Lori,
So,
you are correct. And I think that's based on the point Lyndon brought up, where what Krista does could actually help HR departments craft better job descriptions to
sure, just
identify and get the right people, and more importantly, it would help even craft the pay structure because Lori is Lori, right? Lori, you're correct.
Laurie. Yeah.
Because I could tell you right now, I cringe anytime I see a position for sales and marketing. That's a red
Yeah.
flag for a company immediately. Anytime you have those things batch together. So I think what Krista brings to the table is amazing. And I'm happy we connected, and I'm happy that he made the comment. Like that is just, it is absolutely amazing how all these things connected.
It is. It is. I'm
Yeah.
really grateful to have the opportunity. And I mean, I was telling Jared that I've been fangirling because he's been all over LinkedIn, and I'm trying to get my own thing, in the
Right.
right mix and so on. So, you know, I really am happy to be connected with you guys and to have this opportunity to share this information.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think that there's so much we have to offer the world in terms of
Yes.
Trinidad and Tobago, in
Yep.
terms of educated people. We have it, you
Right here.
know,
Yeah.
by the droves.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of skill and talent that we have that we should be looking to export.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we really have to really shake off the things that we would have come into and find new ways to really tap into our talent and make the best out of our organizations and what we have to offer. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And
Fully agree.
there was something there. There's a point that I just had that just sort of slipped me when while Krista was speaking. But I mean, I think Jared, what this does for us is really validate. I think this was the point actually, Krista. What you've actually done is help us validate that coming into our role, Jared and myself, we always recognize that sometimes, and this is kind of outside, a little bit outside of what we're talking about, is that sometimes the problem isn't the people, sometimes the problem is the process and the technology. And I do like the fact that your organization actually assesses those things. and actually helps customers recognize the gaps. Because tying it into my first question, just even today, having a conversation with a team, and they are saying to me, "But Lyndon, we have not been taught to do those things," or "Lyndon, we don't have any cross training to understand X, hence the reason why we can't do Y." But I was never, and this is sometimes the challenge that comes up when and I'm sure JB would have had that experience when we're doing the engagements, whether it's training or anything else. A lot of stuff begins to come up. So I'm already making notes, getting ready to send it back to HR to say, "Yo, we, we have a couple of things here. I actually might have to change how I proceed for the next 2 days in my training, because the alignment based upon where the team is a little bit different from what I picked up initially." So again, I do like the fact that you are actually doing something like this, because when it comes to people, process, and technology, those are the three really, really strong areas that we need to work on. Of course, always our human resource, because that's our biggest area. Process is so important, because we are, most companies are losing money, and we know that. Jared and I have seen sales processes that are not very good, and it doesn't benefit the team or the organization. And of course, well, now we're in 2021, so technology is
Yeah.
what it is.
They're losing it faster. Just want to bring up a
Yeah.
point Laurie's saying here. I remember managing a team of 5 persons as a manager in an organization and wanted to fire them and murder them daily. How do you manage? How do you wrangle a new team when you just come into the organization as management? I would love to hear your feedback on this, Christa, because I went through that something similar when I was doing some work for a company. I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Okay, so I went through that, getting thrust into a management position and get the whole chain up about, listen, they have serious issues and we need you to go in there and wrangle and get everything in line, and we want this result and whatever. So I put my cape on and I got in the people place and I started change and fix and realign and whatnot. And guess what? All of them against me was not a fight at all. I had to back down and listen. And that's what you need to do. I think that we have, it's an analogy. People say we have one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. You need to go in as management and figure out who you're dealing with. What are the team strengths? Who they are as individuals. The smaller the team, the better you can engage on that level. Have conversations, make the connects with them with the organization's goals and how it aligns with theirs. One thing I like to talk about is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And it depends on what organization you're in and the kind of roles you're talking about. Autonomy meaning giving people the confidence and trusting them enough to do what it takes to get the job done. Because hopefully you've hired right and you have the right skill set, and you can give that person the opportunity to use their skill and talent to get the job done without having to micromanage. That doesn't mean you leave them alone to drift off. You need to be there and coaching and mentoring and managing and assisting and that kind of thing. The next thing is mastery, that people like to excel at things. So that's why you have, you might be a manager of something or doing computer programming or whatever the case is, but you learn to play the electric guitar and you're there and you're rocking out on stage and that kind of thing, and you're a boss in that area. We like to be masterful. And so find ways to allow that to happen, and purpose. Right. And that's the whole thing, from aligning your company goals with the goals of your individuals and seeing how they fit into the whole organization and not making people feel replaceable, making people feel that what they do every single day is important to the success of the organization and to them. One thing, Her Honor, Thomas Felix, and she was repeating something that came from the Lords in England, and they were saying somebody's job is not just a source of pay, is a symbol of who they are. Their status in society, how they belong to the collective, and that kind of thing. So I think if we think about it from that perspective, that this is not just a job title or a paycheck, and you treat people as though it's something more, that they're important, you will then, even if they've disengaged, they'll figure, okay, you know what, I need to live up to this expectation.
I love that.
So
And Laurie says thank you. She said that is hard and it's good advice because you think trust is the hardest part.
Yeah, I would say too that not everything is a bar rescue approach. I'm not sure if you all look at bar rescue.
Yeah, bar
Um,
rescues are dread
yeah,
show.
where dude goes in, he turns the place upside down. Everybody gets a piece of his mind. But I do like what you said there, Krista. And I mean, I'm not sure if Laurie would have. Sometimes management sells the challenges of an or department, and we pick it up as on demand to say, all right, we just go in and we. I forget the word a manager used once with my department at the time, and we were having some challenges, and he came in as though he was the cleaner, and we shut down on him. We shut down on him. We until he had to, as you rightfully said, he had to listen, and because yes, while there were some legitimate performance issues with some staff, we also had other issues that they needed to hear, and nobody was
yeah,
listening. So
yes,
that's how
agree.
you build trust. Yeah.
That's how you build trust, and it takes years to build and seconds to destroy. So
Yeah.
you need to be, that's a tough job of the manager to be consistent. I
Yep.
always say make sure that what you're doing could end up on the front page of the papers with everybody.
Mm.
So
Nice.
that you never deviate from that too much. Lyndon, I had not answered one part of your question,
Which
of
Mm-hmm.
your
part was that?
complicated question, where you were,
What's three part? What's three part
yeah,
question?
yeah, your complex thing, and
Right.
you were saying, what about the people who don't want to share their secrets,
Right. Right.
who don't want. And what I would do, what I will do, is actually go and meet customers. So I don't want to just talk to the key performer. I want to talk to the people, whether it's internal or external customers, and figure out how is their interaction. What's
That's
going
good.
on here? Are they, do and I mean, it's about how I approach them as well, to make sure that
Mm.
nobody feels on their guard or that they're going to be depriving anybody of their job or whatever the case is. But just to know what's going on here, what are the key success or areas that they are doing well,
I like that.
that's building that buy-in and that relationship, or conversely, what's not going so well,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
like
like the
that.
approach of
Yeah.
going with the external and the internal customers because some persons are guarded with their info, which
Yeah.
is, I don't know why they do that, but we know it's rampant in like government organizations and stuff. So, and even some organizations
Now
depending on
sales.
the age.
Now
So,
sales. Some sales
yeah,
people
yeah,
they don't want to share.
crazy. When
Yeah.
they realize it's the execution, is not really the
Yeah.
idea itself.
Yeah.
But Krista, I'm truly appreciative of this. I'm glad we crossed paths because I think what you brought here was really valuable. And I think this one is definitely dedicated to a lot of the managers and people who are managing staff out there because there's a huge need for improvement in staff. And I think what you offer is one of the puzzles, one of the pieces of the puzzles that could help people improve that revenue and increase their market share. So really great to have you on the show tonight. And let us know as we wrap up, where can people find you? Give us some contact info. And I know you have it here. I love the fact that you have it in your banner, in your name banner. That's how you had to do it. But let everybody know where we can find you.
A little from the best, make sure that people know, right? So yeah, so I'm going to have that website up and running soon. It's going to be envisionexperts.com. You can email me, Christa at envisionexperts.com, or you can give me a call or WhatsApp, 868-785-4587.
Nice.
So guys, 868-785-4587. And I'm more than happy. Or, LinkedIn, make sure and connect, send me a little something and we'll connect there. Christa Prevatt on LinkedIn.
I'll make sure and
And that's
post
what I
this.
look like there too.
And
So
then I think you also saw it was somebody from Martinique, from Najiko, had comments on your post to say get in contact with her as well.
yes,
I can't remember
yes.
her name.
Yeah.
So two leads. Listen, 2 leads that generated from one post. You're missing out on the power of LinkedIn right now. Y'all are missing out.
Hey,
Missing
listen,
out.
I'm at the feet of the guru right now, so I'm expecting great things. I'm putting
Nah,
it in.
no, this platform winning it right now. But Krista, I appreciate you. You'll definitely keep in touch. And for those of you who joined us, thank you so much. As you know, every Wednesday, Lyndon and I think we need to start putting up an event page for this, Lyndon, just to keep it on people's toes and the reminder gets sent. But you definitely don't want to miss it out because it's every Wednesday. We're going to be sharing advice, just talking about sales, giving advice, sharing our experiences, all to help you. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.